The vanishing colony. The warning came without ceremony. Across the Keldron Imperial Defense Network, every monitoring station registered the same impossible reading. A single vessel had emerged from the dark space beyond the outer territories, moving with purpose and terrifying speed toward the heart of the Empire. Sensor technician Vrel froze at his console aboard Outpost 7. His 4 fingers danced across the holographic interface, running the diagnostic sequence for the 3rd time. The numbers refused to change. The energy signature approaching their position defied every known principle of starship construction. No vessel that size should generate that much power. No engine system should propel something so massive at such velocity. "Station Commander," Vrel called out, his voice cracking slightly. "We have an unidentified contact." "Single vessel." "Vector indicates direct course toward Keldros Prime." Commander Thane crossed the observation deck in 3 long strides. She had spent 20 solar cycles in the Imperial Defense Force, serving through border skirmishes and pirate suppression operations. Nothing in her experience prepared her for what appeared on the display. The vessel was enormous, easily matching their largest battle carriers in mass, but the power output suggested something else entirely. "Classification?" Thane demanded. "Unknown, Commander. The computer cannot match it to any registered design in our database. The hull composition is unlike anything we have encountered. It appears to be constructed from materials that absorb most active scanning attempts." Thane studied the data streaming across multiple screens. The vessel maintained a perfectly straight trajectory, making no attempt at evasive maneuvers or tactical positioning. It simply moved forward with absolute confidence, as if nothing in the universe could challenge its passage. "Broadcast standard identification request. All frequencies. Every known language protocol." The communications officer complied immediately. Minutes passed in tense silence. The mysterious vessel continued its approach, closing the distance with each passing moment. No response came. No acknowledgement, no threat, just silence and relentless forward momentum. "Try again," Thane ordered. "Emergency channels. Diplomatic frequencies, everything. Still nothing." Thane made her decision. "Establish priority link to Imperial Command. Direct channel to Grand Admiral Korthos. He needs to see this immediately." The holographic projection materialized moments later, displaying the imposing figure of Grand Admiral Korthos. The Admiral was a decorated veteran of the Expansion Wars, a military commander whose tactical brilliance had crushed rebellions across 7 star systems. His dark scales bore the scars of countless battles, and his reputation for ruthless efficiency preceded him throughout the Empire. This had better warrant priority interruption. "Commander," Korthos growled. "Admiral, we have an unidentified vessel approaching Imperial space. It refuses all communication attempts. The energy readings are unprecedented." Korthos examined the data transmission with narrowed eyes. For several seconds he said nothing. When he finally spoke, his tone carried dismissive certainty. "One ship. You have activated priority protocols for 1 ship?" "Sir, the power signature exceeds our entire 2nd Fleet combined output. The vessel appears to be constructed with technology beyond our current understanding. Technology can be reverse engineered. Power can be countered with numbers. We are the Keldron Empire. We command 300 star systems and maintain a military force of unmatched capability." Korthos waved a dismissive hand. "Deploy patrol groups to intercept and identify. If the vessel enters Imperial space without authorization, disable it. Standard engagement protocols apply. Admiral, I strongly recommend." "Your recommendation is noted and dismissed, Commander." "Execute your orders." Korthos out. The hologram vanished. Thane stood motionless, frustration and concern warring within her thoughts. She had learned to trust her instincts during 2 decades of military service. Those instincts screamed that this situation was different, dangerous. Something fundamental had changed in the galaxy, and the Empire was about to discover exactly what that meant. "Dispatch patrol groups as ordered," she said quietly, "but maintain maximum alert status. I want continuous monitoring and immediate reports on any change in the situation." 30 minutes later, everything changed. The mysterious vessel transmitted a message. Not a response to their hails. A declaration broadcast across every communication frequency, with enough power that half the sector received it simultaneously. The voice that emerged from the speakers was human, female, cold with controlled fury. "This is Commander Sarayo Conquo of the Terran Confederation Defense Force. commanding the warship Retribution's edge. 3 months ago, Keldron Imperial forces attacked and destroyed Meridian Station. 4,200 civilians were killed. Scientists, engineers, families, children. Your forces targeted civilian infrastructure deliberately. Your Grand Admiral Korthos personally authorized the operation. Your Emperor Valdrek confirmed the action as official Imperial policy. The transmission paused. In that silence, every listener could feel the weight of what was coming. You have 72 hours to surrender those responsible for this atrocity. Grand Admiral Korthos, Emperor Valdrek, all officers who participated in the operation. They will face trial under Terran Confederation law for crimes against humanity and violations of interstellar convention. This is not negotiation. This is notification. Comply or face consequences. You will receive no further warnings. The channel closed. Commander Thane stood frozen, her mind racing through implications. Humans. The species was supposed to be isolated, confined to their distant corner of space, limited by treaty to their own systems. The Keldron Empire had encountered them only twice in diplomatic contexts, brief exchanges that suggested a civilization of moderate capability and little ambition beyond their borders. Meridian Station. Thane remembered the incident. 3 months ago, Imperial intelligence had identified the station as a potential rebel supply point. Grand Admiral Korthos had decided that surgical strikes were insufficient. He ordered complete destruction. Overwhelming force applied without mercy. The station had been obliterated in less than 20 minutes. Every structure destroyed. Every life extinguished. The official reports had listed Meridian Station as an unauthorized military installation. No mention of civilians. No acknowledgement of families. Just another operation in the endless business of maintaining Imperial authority. Nobody had bothered to verify who actually lived there. Nobody had questioned the intelligence assessment. Apparently someone very important had lived there. Establish connection to Admiral Korthos immediately, Thane ordered. Priority Alpha. When the hologram reformed, Korthos looked different. He had received the transmission too. The certainty was gone from his expression, replaced by something Thane had never seen in the Admiral before. Uncertainty. Perhaps even fear. Humans, he said slowly. Terran Confederation. Our intelligence suggested they lacked the capability for this kind of projection. Our intelligence was wrong, sir, Thane replied carefully. The vessel is real. The technology is beyond our current understanding. If they have one ship with these capabilities, they may have more. Korthos's face hardened. The uncertainty vanished, replaced by the iron determination that had defined his career. We do not surrender Imperial officers to foreign powers. We do not accept ultimatums from anyone. The Keldron Empire answers to no one. Sir, perhaps diplomatic channels. There will be no diplomacy, Commander. Alert all defensive fleets. If this human vessel enters Imperial space, we will demonstrate exactly why the Keldron Empire has dominated this region for 4 centuries. Prepare for full military engagement. Authorization level maximum. All forces are weapons free upon contact. Admiral, the power readings suggest. I have reviewed the data, Commander. Yes, their vessel appears formidable, but formidable means nothing against overwhelming numerical superiority. We will deploy 6 battle groups, 1,200 warships. Whatever technology these humans possess, it cannot withstand that magnitude of force. The transmission ended. Thane returned her attention to the main display. The human warship continued its steady approach, maintaining course with perfect precision. No deviation, no hesitation. Just relentless forward momentum toward the heart of the Empire. Within hours, the Keldron military machine activated at unprecedented scale. Battle groups converged from across Imperial space. Massive dreadnoughts capable of orbital bombardment. Swift attack cruisers designed for rapid strike operations. Support carriers loaded with fighter squadrons. Defense platforms powered up weapon systems dormant for years. The mobilization represented the largest military operation in recent Imperial history. 1,200 warships moving into defensive positions. Hundreds of thousands of personnel called to battle stations. The pride and power of an empire preparing to crush a single threat. Intelligence reports arrived continuously. Ancient records mentioned humans as a spacefaring species encountered during early expansion periods. The accounts were contradictory. Some described peaceful traders. Others mentioned fierce warriors. Most historians dismissed humans as insignificant, a minor civilization that had kept to itself for centuries. But the energy readings told a different story. The Retribution's edge generated power levels that suggested technology centuries beyond current galactic standards. Its hull composition absorbed scanning attempts, suggesting materials and construction techniques unknown to Keldron science. Its propulsion system violated several understood principles of physics. Commander Thane pulled up historical records, searching for any information that might explain what they faced. The data was fragmentary. Humans had appeared in galactic politics approximately 800 solar cycles ago. Initial contact had been peaceful. Trade agreements were established. Cultural exchange occurred. Then suddenly humans withdrew. They closed their borders. They refused almost all external contact. They vanished into their isolated systems. Why had they withdrawn? What had they been doing during those centuries of isolation, and what had brought them back now with such devastating purpose? The answer lay in the ruins of Meridian Station. 4,200 civilians, scientists conducting research, engineers maintaining station systems, families who had chosen to live on the frontier, children learning and playing and dreaming of futures that would never come. All erased because Grand Admiral Korthos had decided efficiency mattered more than verification, because Emperor Valdric had signed the authorization without asking questions, because the Keldron Empire had grown so confident in its power that individual lives no longer registered as significant. Now, someone was coming to collect payment for that arrogance. Someone with the capability to make that collection by force. Thane watched the countdown timer. 72 hours until the human ultimatum expired. 72 hours for diplomacy, for reason, for some solution that didn't end in catastrophic violence. But she knew her empire, knew its leadership, knew the pride and certainty that had been built across centuries of dominance. The Keldron Empire would not bend, would not negotiate, would not acknowledge that it might have made a mistake. They would fight. And Thane suspected with growing dread certainty that they would lose. On the bridge of the Retribution's edge, Commander Sarai Okonkwo stood before the main view screen. Behind her, crew members worked in focused silence. Every person aboard this vessel had lost someone at Meridian Station. Colleagues, friends, family members. This wasn't merely a military operation. This was personal justice demanded by those who had survived. Okonkwo's reflection stared back from the darkened screen. She looked exhausted. 3 months of preparation, of planning, of building the case for this mission. 3 months of grief held in check by the consuming need for accountability. Her wife had been on Meridian Station, Dr. Amara Okonkwo, leading a research team studying exotic matter interactions. Brilliant, passionate, dedicated to expanding human understanding of the universe. She had volunteered for the frontier posting, eager to work without the constraints of core world bureaucracy. Now, Amara was gone. Vaporized along with 4,000 others because an alien military commander had chosen expedience over verification, because an alien emperor had rubber-stamped genocide without hesitation. Commander, her executive officer said quietly, we're detecting massive fleet movements. They're mobilizing 1,200 confirmed warships, multiple battle groups converging on intercept coordinates. How many ships? Okonkwo asked. 1,200 and counting, ma'am. They're committing everything they have in this sector. Okonkwo nodded slowly. She had expected this. The intelligence briefings had been clear. The Keldron Empire would never surrender its own, would never acknowledge wrongdoing. Pride and power had been their foundation for too long. They would fight because fighting was all they understood. They're not going to comply, her XO observed. No, Okonkwo agreed. They're going to learn a very expensive lesson instead. She activated ship-wide communications. Her voice echoed through every section of the Retribution's edge. This is the commander. In 72 hours, we will engage Keldron Imperial forces. They outnumber us significantly. They believe numbers will decide this engagement. They are wrong. We possess technological advantages they cannot comprehend. We carry weapons they cannot counter. We fight for justice they refuse to acknowledge. What matters is that 4,200 humans died for no reason, except imperial arrogance. We are here to demonstrate that human lives matter, that actions have consequences, that justice will be served regardless of the obstacles. All hands to battle stations. Prepare for combat operations. Okonkwo out. The Retribution's edge continued its relentless approach. Behind the scenes, automated systems ran continuous diagnostics. Weapons charged to full capacity. Defensive shields calibrated to maximum efficiency. Engines hummed with barely contained power. The ship was ready. The crew was ready. In 72 hours, the Keldran Empire would discover that some species remember their dead. Some species demand accountability, and some species possess the capability to enforce that demand against any opposition. The countdown continued. With each passing hour, the distance closed. With each passing moment, the confrontation drew nearer. Two forces on an inevitable collision course, one driven by pride and the assumption of superiority, the other driven by grief and the absolute certainty of purpose. The galaxy was about to witness something unprecedented. The question was not whether blood would be shed. The question was how much blood the Keldran Empire was willing to spend defending the indefensible. The price of arrogance. The Keldran defensive line formed at the Ashran Gateway, a natural choke point where gravitational anomalies from twin neutron stars created a narrow corridor through otherwise impassable space. It was the perfect ambush location. Admiral Korthos had positioned his forces with masterful precision. 4 battle groups spread across the corridor in overlapping formations, 300 warships waiting in predetermined killing zones. The tactical plan was elegant in its simplicity. The human vessel would enter the corridor with limited maneuvering options. Crossfire from multiple angles would overwhelm any defensive system. Concentrated firepower from 300 warships would reduce even the most advanced vessel to molten debris within minutes. Korthos stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Imperial Dominance. The massive dreadnought stretched 5 kilometers from bow to stern, mounting enough weaponry to level planetary surfaces. Around him, veteran officers monitored their stations with calm efficiency. These were professionals who had fought in dozens of engagements. They knew their business. Status report, Korthos commanded. All ships in position, Admiral, his tactical officer responded. 2nd and 3rd battle groups holding at maximum effective range. 1st and 4th groups forward, ready to initiate engagement. Fighter squadrons deployed. 400 craft standing by for attack runs. Korthos nodded satisfaction. This was overwhelming force properly applied. Whatever advantages the humans possessed, they could not survive this level of coordinated assault. Simple mathematics would decide the outcome. 1 ship against 300. The result was inevitable. Contact in 15 minutes, sir, sensors announced. Target maintaining course and speed. No attempt at evasive maneuvers. Arrogant, Korthos muttered. Or foolish. Perhaps both. The minutes crawled past. Every eye on every bridge watched countdown timers tick toward 0. Weapon systems hummed at full charge. Targeting computers locked acquisition protocols. 300 warships prepared to unleash simultaneous devastation. Visual contact, sensors called out. Transferring to main display. The view screen activated, showing the approaching human vessel. Silence fell across the bridge. The Retribution's edge was nothing like Keldran ship design. No curves, no aesthetic considerations, just brutal efficiency carved from dark metal alloys. Every surface suggested purpose. Every angle spoke of calculated violence. It looked less like a ship and more like a weapon given form. All ships, Korthos announced across the fleet channel. Commence firing. Maximum intensity. Destroy that vessel. Space erupted with unleashed fury. Plasma cannons discharged superheated matter at relativistic velocities. Antimatter torpedoes streaked toward their target, each carrying enough destructive potential to crack continents. Kinetic railguns launched projectiles at incredible speeds. Energy beams carved through vacuum with precise targeting. The combined firepower of 300 warships focused on a single point. It was an attack capable of obliterating entire fleets. Korthos watched the view screen, expecting to see the human ship torn apart under the overwhelming assault. The smile died on his face. The Retribution's edge shields absorbed everything. Every plasma discharge, every torpedo, every kinetic projectile, every energy beam. The defensive barrier shimmered with dissipated energy, rippling like water disturbed by falling rain. But it held. The power reading showed the shields operating at barely 40% capacity. That is impossible, someone whispered. Increase fire concentration, Korthos ordered, his voice tight. All weapons on forward sections. Overwhelm their defensive systems. The barrage intensified. 300 warships poured everything they possessed into concentrated bombardment. For several seconds it seemed effective. The human shields flickered under sustained assault. Power readings climbed toward critical thresholds. Then the Retribution's edge returned fire. The human vessel had no visible weapon ports. No turrets, no obvious gun emplacements. Sections of hull simply opened, revealing weapon systems that defied conventional understanding. What emerged was technology decades beyond anything the Keldran Empire possessed. The first weapon discharged a beam of pure white energy that seemed to bend space itself. It struck the lead dreadnought in the forward formation. The ship's shields held for perhaps 2 seconds. Then they collapsed. The beam continued through the vessel like it was constructed from paper. The dreadnought simply ceased to exist. No explosion, no debris field. One moment it was there, 5,000 crew members aboard a 3-kilometer warship. The next moment, empty space. What was that? Someone screamed. The Retribution's edge fired again, and again. Each discharge was different. Particle beams that ignored conventional shielding. Projectiles that moved faster than targeting computers could track. Something that resembled a miniature singularity, pulling 4 cruisers together and crushing them into compressed metal spheres. The Keldran fleet tried to scatter. Ships broke formation attempting evasive maneuvers. It accomplished nothing. The human targeting systems achieved perfection that seemed almost supernatural. Every shot connected. Every hit killed. Warships that had survived countless battles were destroyed in seconds. Deploy all fighters, Korthos commanded, his voice rising. Swarm tactics. Small targets are harder to track. 400 Keldran fighters launched from their carriers. Elite pilots in fast, agile craft streaked toward the human vessel from multiple attack vectors. Weapons blazed as they closed distance. The Retribution's edge responded by deploying countermeasures. Small autonomous drones, perhaps 2 meters in diameter, poured from launch bays. They moved with impossible speed and precision. Each drone locked onto a fighter and engaged. The dogfight lasted 90 seconds. 360 fighters were destroyed. The surviving 40 broke off in full retreat, their pilots broadcasting panic across all channels. Admiral, we have lost 60% of our fleet. The tactical officer reported, his voice shaking. Casualties exceed 100,000. We cannot sustain this engagement. Korthos stared at the tactical display. The human vessel continued its advance, methodically destroying everything in its path. It hadn't even slowed down. All that firepower, all those ships, all that careful planning, and they had accomplished exactly nothing. For the first time in his military career, Grand Admiral Korthos felt genuine fear. This wasn't battle. This was extermination, and his forces were the ones being exterminated. All ships, he said quietly, the words tasting like ash. Full retreat. Maximum speed. Withdraw to secondary defensive positions. The surviving Keldran warships disengaged and fled. Engines flared desperately as they tried to escape. The Retribution's edge let them go. It could have pursued, could have destroyed them all, but it didn't. It simply continued on its original course, heading deeper into Imperial space. On the bridge of the Imperial dominance, Korthos slumped in his command chair. Around him, his crew worked in stunned silence. The engagement had lasted 18 minutes. 18 minutes to destroy the most powerful battle group the Keldran Empire could assemble. Establish priority connection to Emperor Valdrek, Korthos said. Maximum encryption. He needs to understand what we are facing. The holographic display activated, showing Emperor Valdrek. The Emperor was ancient by Keldran standards, his scales gray with age, his eyes still sharp despite the years. He looked annoyed at being disturbed. This had better warrant direct contact, Admiral, Valdrek began. We lost. Korthos interrupted. Protocol be damned. Your Majesty, we engaged the human vessel with 4 battle groups, 300 warships. We threw everything at them. They destroyed 200 ships in 18 minutes. The survivors are retreating. The Retribution's edge is continuing toward Keldros Prime. Valdrek's expression cycled through disbelief, confusion, and finally cold calculation. That is impossible. 300 ships against 1. I have complete tactical recordings, Your Majesty. I will transmit immediately. But you must understand what this means. The humans possess technology that is generations beyond our capabilities. Their weapons, their shields, their targeting systems. Everything exceeds our understanding. We cannot stop them with conventional military force. What are you suggesting, Admiral? Negotiate. Give them what they want. Myself, you, anyone else involved in the Meridian Station operation. Hand us over to face their justice. Make reparations. Whatever prevents them from reaching the homeworld. Absolutely not, Valdrick snapped. I am the Emperor of Keldros. I bow to no one. We do not surrender our own people to foreign powers regardless of the circumstances. Your Majesty, please understand. I understand that you failed, Admiral. I understand that you allowed one ship to defeat 300. What I do not understand is why you are suggesting surrender rather than regrouping and fighting harder. Because we cannot win, Korthos said desperately. We do not have the capability. They will reach Keldros Prime. They will take what they want by force. Then we will defend our homeworld with everything we possess. Valdrick said coldly. We have planetary defense grids, orbital fortresses, the home fleet. If the humans want to take me, they will have to kill every loyal soldier in the system first. Perhaps that will be lesson enough. Regroup your forces, Admiral. Prepare for final defense. We will show these humans that the Keldron Empire does not break. Valdrick out. The hologram vanished. Korthos sat in darkness, staring at nothing. The Emperor didn't understand. Couldn't understand. He hadn't witnessed the casual efficiency with which the Retribution's Edge had dismantled their forces. Hadn't seen weapons that ignored physics. Hadn't felt the absolute helplessness of facing something so far beyond your capability. This wasn't going to end well. Korthos knew that with complete certainty, but he was a soldier. He followed orders, even orders that led to disaster. Word of the engagement spread across the galaxy within hours. News networks broadcast footage captured by independent observers. The Galactic Council received detailed reports from multiple sources. Every civilization in known space watched the recordings and reached the same conclusion. The humans were back, and they were terrifying. On board the Retribution's Edge, Commander Okonkwo reviewed after-action data. The engagement had proceeded exactly as simulated. 0 casualties on the human side. Minimal shield stress. The Keldron forces had been neutralized with clinical efficiency, but Okonkwo felt no satisfaction. 120,000 beings had died in those 18 minutes. Most were following orders, doing their duty. They hadn't personally authorized the Meridian Station massacre. They were just soldiers protecting their empire, but they had stood between her and justice. They had chosen to defend those responsible for genocide, and so they had died, Commander, her XO said quietly. Intelligence suggests 3 more defensive positions between here and Keldros Prime. Total estimated forces range from 400 to 600 vessels. Additionally, the homeworld itself has significant defenses. They're not going to surrender, Okonkwo observed. No, ma'am. It appears they would rather fight to the end than face accountability. Okonkwo nodded slowly. She had expected this. Pride and power were difficult things to surrender. The Keldron Empire had dominated this region for centuries. They had grown accustomed to being untouchable. The idea that actions might have consequences was foreign to their leadership. Maintain course, she ordered. Best speed to Keldros Prime. If they want to slow us down, make them pay for it. The Retribution's Edge accelerated, leaving the debris field behind. Ahead lay more defenders, more obstacles, more death. But Okonkwo was committed. There was no turning back now. Not until those responsible faced justice. Not until the galaxy understood that human lives mattered. That 4,200 civilians could not be murdered without consequence. The next 2 engagements followed the same pattern. Keldron forces deployed in defensive positions. The Retribution's Edge destroyed them with mechanical precision. Each battle lasted less than 30 minutes. Each battle ended with hundreds of destroyed warships and tens of thousands of casualties. After the 3rd engagement, something changed. Okonkwo received an encrypted transmission from inside Keldron space. It came from a group calling themselves the Reformation Circle. They claimed to be Imperial citizens opposed to the current government. They offered assistance. The transmission included detailed intelligence. Defensive grid layouts, shield frequencies, patrol schedules, weaknesses in the planetary defense system. If the information was accurate, it could save thousands of lives on both sides. It could be a trap, her XO warned. It could be, Okonkwo agreed, but it could also be genuine.
Analyze everything.
Cross-reference with known data. Look for inconsistencies. The AI systems worked for several minutes. Analysis complete, the computer announced. Information appears authentic. Probability of accuracy is 89%. Okonkwo made her decision. Transmit response. Tell them we appreciate the information, but will verify independently before acting. Make clear that if this is deception, the consequences will be severe. As the message was sent, Okonkwo pulled up internal reports. The Keldron civilian population was in turmoil. Word of Meridian Station had spread despite government censorship. The truth about 4,000 murdered civilians had shattered faith in imperial leadership. Protests had erupted across multiple worlds. Millions demanded accountability. The Reformation Circle transmission had included leaked government documents. Official after-action reports from Meridian Station. Casualty lists. Video footage from the bombardment. Everything that proved beyond doubt what had really happened. The Keldron people were seeing their empire's actions clearly for the first time. And many of them were horrified. 3 days later, the Retribution's edge reached Keldros Prime. The homeworld was heavily defended. 15 orbital fortresses ringed the planet. Each fortress mounted firepower equivalent to a dreadnought. The home fleet consisted of 500 warships. Planetary shield generators covered major population centers. It was the most formidable defensive concentration in Keldron space. Everything the Empire had left gathered in one final desperate stand. Okonkwo broadcast one final message. Emperor Valdric, Grand Admiral Korthos, this is your last opportunity. Surrender yourselves peacefully. Face trial for your crimes. Accept accountability for Meridian Station. Do this and the killing stops. Refuse and we will take you by force. You have 1 hour. In the Imperial Command Center deep beneath the palace, Emperor Valdric stood surrounded by his advisors. Holographic displays showed the human warship in orbit, showed the protests raging through the capital streets above, showed the truth that could no longer be hidden. Your Majesty, one advisor said carefully. Perhaps negotiation? No, Valdric said firmly. I am the Emperor. I do not surrender. I do not bow to foreign demands. If these humans want me, they will have to take me. But even as he spoke, Valdric could see the truth in his advisor's eyes. Fear. Doubt. The certainty that continued resistance would end in catastrophe. The empire he had ruled for 40 years was fracturing, not from external force but from internal recognition of its own failures. The hour passed. No surrender came. Okonkwo gave the order to engage. The battle for Keldros Prime lasted 6 hours. It was brutal, desperate, and ultimately futile for the Keldron defenders. The Retribution's edge systematically destroyed each orbital fortress, dismantled the home fleet, disabled the planetary shields, not through overwhelming force but through technological superiority so complete it appeared almost casual. Halfway through the engagement, something unprecedented occurred. 300 Keldron warships broke formation and withdrew. Their commanders broadcast messages refusing to continue defending those responsible for genocide. They would not die protecting war criminals, the mutiny spread. More ships stood down. More crews refused orders. The will to fight collapsed as the truth became undeniable. The Empire had committed an atrocity. The Emperor had authorized mass murder. And now the reckoning had arrived. Emperor Valdric watched his empire crumble in real time. The protests had become a full uprising. The military was fragmenting. The truth had destroyed the foundations of his authority. In the end, he made the only choice remaining. He surrendered. The transmission went out across all channels. Commander Okonkwo, this is Emperor Valdric. I accept your terms. I will surrender myself. Grand Admiral Korthos will surrender. All officers involved in the Meridian Station operation will be turned over to Terran Confederation authority. I ask only that civilian populations be spared further violence. Okonkwo received the message and felt no triumph, just exhaustion. Accepted, she transmitted back. Prepare for extraction. A shuttle will arrive within the hour. The war was over. Justice would be served. 4,200 murdered civilians would have their day in court. Those responsible would face accountability under law. The galaxy watched and learned. Some species celebrated humanity's return. Others feared it. All understood that the balance of power had shifted. The isolated humans were isolated no longer. They possessed technology that challenged the strongest empires, and they had demonstrated willingness to use that technology when their people were threatened. The Keldron Empire would survive, but it would be transformed. The Reformation Circle emerged from shadows to guide rebuilding. New leadership promised accountability, transparency, and respect for sentient life. And on the Retribution's edge, Commander Sarai Okonkwo stood before the view screen, looking at stars that seemed somehow brighter than before. Somewhere among those stars her wife's memory could rest. Justice had been served. The dead could be honored. The galaxy had been reminded that human lives mattered. The mission was complete. But Okonkwo knew this was just the beginning. Humanity had announced its return. The galaxy would never be the same.